Zainab stood in her small kitchen in Kilimani, a quiet neighborhood in Nairobi. The afternoon sun came through the window and made the small room warm. She was stirring a big pot of ugali, which is a food made from maize flour that Kenyan families eat every day. The white mixture moved slowly under her wooden spoon. Her hands moved with the practice of someone who had made this meal hundreds of times before. In the next room, she could hear her children playing. Her son Kofi, who was 8 years old, was making car sounds as he pushed his toy cars across the floor. Her daughter Amina, who was only 6, was drawing pictures with colored pencils at the small table. Their happy sounds made Zainab smile even though her day had been long and tiring. She had woken up at 5 in the morning to prepare for her job as a teacher at a local primary school. Zainab had been married to Jamal for 12 years. They had met in university and fell in love with each other very quickly. Jamal was smart and funny, and he always knew how to make her laugh. But as the years passed and they had children, life became more serious. They had to worry about money for school fees, rent, food, and all the things that a family needs. Jamal worked as a manager at a company and Zainab worked as a teacher. Together they earned enough to live, but they did not have money for extra things. Every month they had to plan carefully to make sure they could pay for everything. This was why Zainab was confused when Jamal kept asking her about her birthday in the coming weeks. Her birthday was in 7 days. Jamal would come home from work and ask her strange questions. "Do you have a passport?" he asked one evening. "Is your passport still valid?" he asked another day. Zainab thought this was very strange. She did not need a passport to celebrate her birthday in Nairobi. She told Jamal that maybe they could go to a nice restaurant on the coast like they sometimes did. She said that would make her happy. But Jamal only smiled and did not say anything. He said wait and see, and told her that he had a surprise planned. Zainab thought about this many times. What could he possibly be planning? She asked her friends at school, but they did not know. She asked her mother, but her mother only laughed and said that Jamal must love her very much if he was keeping such a big secret. Zainab decided to stop asking questions and just wait to find out what the surprise was. Then, 3 days before her birthday, Jamal came home from work earlier than usual. His face looked excited and he had a big smile on his face. He told Zainab to sit down in the living room. Kofi and Amina were playing outside in the yard, so they were alone. Jamal sat next to his wife and took her hands in his. Zainab's heart was beating fast. She did not know what he was going to say. Jamal pulled out his phone and showed Zainab a picture of an airplane ticket. Then he showed her more pictures. Pictures of hotels, pictures of tall buildings that touched the sky, pictures of shopping malls, and pictures of the beach. He told her that he had booked a trip for the whole family. They would fly to Dubai on her birthday. They would stay in a 5-star hotel for 7 days. They would see the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world. They would go shopping at the Dubai Mall. They would ride on a yacht. They would go to the desert and see beautiful places. Zainab's face went white. She felt cold even though the room was warm. She did not say anything for a long time. Jamal was still talking, telling her about all the things they would do and all the places they would see. He was excited like a child on Christmas Day. He was talking about how amazing it would be for the children to see the world. He was talking about how much money he had spent to make this happen. Finally, Zainab found her voice. "Jamal," she said slowly, "how much money did you spend on this trip?" "Do not worry about the money," Jamal said with his big smile. "I have been saving. This is the gift I want to give you for your birthday." But Zainab did worry about the money. She knew exactly how much money they had saved. She knew because she was the one who kept track of all the family finances. She wrote down every shilling that came in and every shilling that went out. She knew they had saved 10,000 shillings for the children's school fees next term. She knew they had saved money for emergencies, for when something broke in the house or when someone got sick. "Jamal," she said, trying to keep her voice calm, "you did not ask me about this. You did not ask me if I wanted to go to Dubai. You just decided this by yourself." Jamal's smile started to disappear. "But this is a surprise," he said. "You are not supposed to ask someone before you give them a surprise. That is not how surprises work." "But a surprise is not a good thing if it is something I do not want," Zainab said. "And it is not a good thing if you spend money without asking me. We are partners, Jamal. We make big decisions together." "I was trying to make you happy," Jamal said. His voice became quieter. "I thought you would be excited. I thought you would be grateful." Zainab felt sad then. She could see that Jamal had been trying to do something nice. But she also felt angry because he had not asked her. He had not listened to what she wanted. He had just decided for her. And now she had to either be ungrateful and hurt his feelings, or she had to go on a trip she did not want to go on. I am grateful, she said quietly. But I am also upset. I am upset because you made this big decision without me. I am upset because we need that money for other things. And I am upset because you did not ask me what would make me happy. That night, the house was quiet but not in a peaceful way. It was quiet in the way that means something is wrong. Jamal did not understand why Zainab was not happy. He kept saying that he was trying to be a good husband. He kept saying that he had worked hard to save this money. He kept saying that most wives would be thrilled to go to Dubai. Zainab went to bed early. She lay in the dark and felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. In 7 days they would get on an airplane. In 7 days she would have to tell her school that she was leaving. The school year was important right now and she knew her students needed her. But she would have to go to Dubai because that was what Jamal had decided. She thought about her marriage. She thought about how she loved her husband, but sometimes she felt like he did not really see her. He saw what he thought she should want but not what she actually wanted. She wondered if this was going to be a good birthday or a sad one. She wondered if this trip would bring her family closer together or push them further apart. Outside her window, Nairobi was quiet under the stars. Tomorrow would come and then the day after that and then they would go to Dubai. But tonight, Zainab just lay in the dark and wished that her husband had asked her first. Zainab woke up on the morning of her birthday feeling tired and sad. She had not slept well during the night. She kept thinking about the trip and everything that needed to be done before they left. She had to pack clothes for the children, prepare documents, and most importantly, she had to go to school and tell her principal that she would not be there for the next week. When Zainab arrived at school that morning, she went straight to the principal's office. The principal was a kind man named Mr. Okonkwo who had worked at the school for many years. When Zainab told him that she needed to take a week off for a family trip, his face showed disappointment. "Zainab," he said slowly, "this is the middle of our important examination period. Your students need you now more than ever. We are preparing them for their midterm tests. Can you not change your plans?" Zainab felt her heart break a little when she heard this. She wanted to tell Mr. Okonkwo that she had not planned this trip. She wanted to tell him that she had not chosen to leave during this important time. But she said nothing. She just apologized and promised to give her students extra lessons when she returned. Mr. Okonkwo nodded but she could see that he was upset with her. By the afternoon, Zainab and her family were at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The airport was very busy with many people moving in different directions. There were families with children, business people with computers, and tourists carrying big bags. The noise was loud and there were so many people that it made Zainab feel anxious. Jamal, however, was very happy. He walked around the airport like he owned it. He was holding Amina's hand and telling her about all the amazing things they would see in Dubai. "We will see the tallest building in the world," he said to his daughter. "It is so tall that it touches the clouds. And we will see shopping malls so big that you could get lost inside them. There are stores with clothes and toys and things from all over the world." Kofi was excited too. He asked his father many questions. "Will we see real camels in the desert? Will we swim in the sea? Will we eat ice cream?" Jamal answered every question with enthusiasm. He took his phone out and showed the children videos and pictures. Amina's eyes grew wide as she watched videos of the Burj Khalifa. Kofi laughed when he saw pictures of people riding camels. Zainab stood a little bit away from her family. She watched them and felt something heavy in her chest. She was looking at the people in the airport who seemed happy and excited about their travels. Some families were together, taking pictures and smiling. But Zainab did not feel like smiling. She felt like she was being pulled into something that she did not choose. When they sat down to wait for their flight, Zainab looked at the departure board. She saw flights going to many countries: London, New York, Johannesburg, and Dubai. All these people were going places they wanted to go, or at least places they had decided to go. But Zainab was going to Dubai because her husband had decided it for her. As they waited, Jamal sat next to Zainab with his phone in his hand. He was showing their photos to a man sitting near them. The man was a colleague from Jamal's work. "This is where we are going," Jamal said proudly, showing pictures of the hotel. "My wife's birthday trip. I wanted to do something really special for her this year. Most men do not take their families to places like Dubai, you know. It is expensive, but I wanted to show my family the world." Zainab heard every word. She watched as Jamal talked to this man with pride in his voice. He was not talking about what Zainab wanted or what would make her happy. He was talking about himself. He was talking about how much money he had spent. He was talking about how impressive it was that he could afford such a trip. Zainab realized then that this trip was not really about her birthday at all. It was about Jamal showing other people how successful he was. This thought made her feel even more sad. She had married a man who she thought loved her and wanted to understand her. But now she was beginning to see that Jamal loved the idea of being a good husband more than he loved actually being one. Being a good husband would mean asking her what she wanted. Being a good husband would mean listening when she said no. Being a good husband would mean making decisions together, not making decisions and expecting her to be grateful. When they finally boarded the plane, Zainab found her seat next to a window. Kofi sat next to her and Amina sat with Jamal across the aisle. As the plane started to move, Zainab looked out at Nairobi getting smaller and smaller below them. She thought about her school, her students, and Mr. Okonkwo's disappointed face. She thought about how she had worked hard to build her career as a teacher. She thought about how important her students were to her. And now she was leaving them during an important time because her husband had made a decision without asking her. Hours into the flight, when the children were sleeping, Jamal moved to sit next to Zainab. He looked happy and relaxed. He held her hand and said, "Soon you will see Dubai. Soon you will understand why I did this. I promise you, Zainab, you will love it. And our children will remember this forever. When they grow up, they will tell their own children about the time their father took them to Dubai." Zainab looked at her husband's face. She saw the excitement in his eyes. She saw that he truly believed he was doing the right thing. But she also saw something else. She saw that he was not really looking at her. He was not seeing her sadness or her worry. He was only seeing what he wanted to see. "Jamal," she said quietly, "I need you to understand something. I do not care about Dubai. I do not care about the tallest building in the world. What I care about is being heard. What I care about is making decisions with you, not having decisions made for me. What I care about is that you ask me what I want before you spend our money or plan our time." Jamal's smile faded a little. "But this is a gift," he said. "Gifts are supposed to be surprises. You are supposed to just accept them and say thank you." "No," Zainab said. "Gifts are supposed to be something that the person wants. You cannot just buy something and call it a gift if it is not something the person wants. That is not a gift. That is just something you bought." They sat in silence for a long time after that. The airplane moved through the dark sky, carrying them toward a place that Zainab did not want to go. She put her head against the window and watched the clouds pass below. She thought about how she loved Jamal, but she also felt something else. She felt lonely even though her husband was sitting right next to her. She felt unheard even though she had just spoken. Outside the airplane window, the night was dark and endless. Somewhere below was the African continent that she loved. Somewhere below was Nairobi, her home. But she was flying away from it, toward a place that someone else had chosen for her. Zainab closed her eyes and wished that things could be different. She wished that her husband could see her the way she really was, and not just the way he imagined her to be. The hotel in Dubai was beautiful and enormous. Zainab had never seen a building so big or so fancy in her entire life. The lobby had marble floors that were so shiny you could see your reflection in them. There were chandeliers hanging from the ceiling that looked like they cost more money than Zainab made in a whole year. The front desk had at least 10 people working there, all dressed in uniforms that looked like they were made from expensive cloth. Everything about the hotel said wealth and luxury, but to Zainab, it all felt cold and empty. They were given a large suite on the 23rd floor. The room had 2 bedrooms, a living area, and a balcony that looked out over the city of Dubai. From this height, Dubai looked like a dream. The buildings were so tall they seemed impossible. The streets had so many cars and so many lights. Everything was new and shiny and modern. Amina ran to the balcony and pressed her face against the glass. "Mama, look how high we are," she said. Kofi stood next to her and looked amazed. But Zainab felt no excitement when she looked at this view. She felt worried. She thought about their bank account back home in Nairobi. She thought about the school fees that were due in a few months. She thought about her students who were sitting in the classroom without her. Jamal had planned every single day of their trip with careful detail. He had written down everything they would do and at what time they would do it. On the first day they would go on a desert safari. On the second day they would go shopping at the Dubai Mall. On the third day they would go on a yacht cruise. On the fourth day they would visit the beach. Every day was filled with activities and experiences that Jamal had paid for in advance. The desert safari was the first activity. They left the hotel early in the morning before the sun became too hot. Jamal had hired a private guide named Hassan who knew everything about the desert. Hassan picked them up in a big 4-wheel drive vehicle and drove them into the desert. The sand stretched out forever in every direction, looking like an ocean made of gold. At first it was wonderful. Hassan told the children about the desert animals and the Bedouin people who lived there many years ago. He showed them plants that could live in such a dry place. When they saw a lizard, Kofi was so excited that he jumped up and down. They rode camels, and even though Amina was a little scared at first, she soon started to laugh and enjoy it. But as the day went on, the heat became stronger and stronger. The sun was very bright and very hot. There was no shade in the desert, and the sand was burning hot under their feet. After a few hours, Kofi started to complain. "Papa, I am hot," he said. "Papa, I am tired. Can we go back?" Jamal looked at his watch. "We still have 2 more hours," he said. "We paid for a full tour. We should see all of it." "But Kofi is tired," Zainab said. She could see that her son was suffering. His face was red and he was sweating a lot. "Maybe we should go back to the hotel." "No," Jamal said firmly. "We paid for this tour. We are going to finish it." They continued for 2 more hours. By the time they got back to the hotel, Kofi was exhausted. He fell asleep immediately after dinner and did not wake up until the next morning. Zainab spent the evening putting cool water on his face and making sure he drank plenty of water. She was worried about him. The next day was supposed to be a shopping day at the Dubai Mall. It was the largest shopping mall in the world, Jamal told them. It had over 1,000 stores. It had an ice skating rink, an aquarium, and a cinema. Jamal wanted to show his children this amazing place. But that night Amina got sick. She woke up crying in the middle of the night with a high fever. The sudden change in climate, the airplane travel, and the different food had made her body confused. Her little body was fighting to adjust to this new place. Zainab stayed awake all night, putting cold cloths on her daughter's forehead and holding her hand. By morning, Amina's fever was still high. She did not want to eat anything. She just wanted to lie in bed and sleep. Zainab told Jamal that they should cancel the shopping trip. "But the mall is already booked," Jamal said. "I made reservations for the ice skating. The children were looking forward to it." "Amina is very sick," Zainab said. Her voice was tired and frustrated. "She needs rest. She needs her mother to take care of her, not to take her to a shopping mall." Jamal looked upset. "Can you not stay here with her while I take Kofi? I planned this trip for the whole family. We should not waste it." Zainab felt anger rise in her chest. Waste it? How could their family time be wasted? Why was experiencing the mall more important than Amina's health? But she was too tired to argue. She stayed in the hotel room with Amina while Jamal took Kofi to the Dubai Mall. The hours passed slowly. Amina slept most of the time, waking occasionally to ask for water. Zainab sat on the bed beside her sick daughter and looked out the window at the city below. She thought about her classroom in Nairobi. She thought about her students waiting for her. She thought about how she could have been there, helping them study for their exams, instead of sitting in a hotel room watching her sick child. When Jamal and Kofi returned hours later, they were excited and tired. They had gone ice skating. They had bought toys at the mall. They had eaten ice cream. Jamal was smiling, but Zainab was not smiling. She was thinking about how much money they had probably spent that day. She was thinking about how this trip was costing them so much, and nobody seemed happy except for Jamal. The yacht cruise on the 3rd day was another activity that Jamal did not want to cancel. Even though Amina was feeling a little better but still weak, Jamal insisted that they go. He said that fresh sea air would be good for her. On the yacht, Amina sat in Zainab's lap the whole time. She did not run around or play like the other children on the boat. She just sat quietly, leaning against her mother. Kofi tried to have fun, but he was still tired from the day before. Jamal spent most of the time taking pictures and videos to show people back home in Nairobi. That evening, when the children were finally asleep in their room, Zainab sat on the balcony alone. It was late and the city lights below were beautiful. But Zainab was not thinking about the beauty. She was thinking about everything that had happened. She thought about her job and how she had let down her students. She thought about the money they had spent, money they did not have. She thought about how her children were sick and tired instead of enjoying themselves. She thought about how her husband had made all these decisions without asking her what she wanted. When Jamal joined her on the balcony, Zainab finally spoke. Her voice was calm but firm. "Jamal, I need to tell you something," she said. "This trip is not about my birthday. This trip is about you. It is about showing your colleagues that you are successful. It is about proving something to people back home. But it has nothing to do with what I want or what makes me happy." Jamal tried to interrupt, but Zainab continued. "I do not want to be in Dubai," she said. "My children are sick and tired. They do not want to be here either. And you keep forcing us to do activities because you have already paid for them. But Jamal, you cannot buy happiness. You cannot force it. And you cannot make people happy by spending money on things they do not want." "But I was trying to be a good husband," Jamal said quietly. No, Zainab said. A good husband asks his wife what she wants. A good husband listens when his wife says she does not want something. A good husband makes decisions with his wife, not for his wife. A good husband would have asked me what would make me happy for my birthday. And if he had asked, I would have told him. I would have said that what makes me happy is being with my family at home, doing simple things together. I would have said that what makes me happy is feeling like my opinion matters. I would have said that what makes me happy is having a husband who sees me and hears me, not a husband who just buys things and expects me to be grateful. Tears came to Zainab's eyes, but her voice stayed strong. I love you, Jamal. But I cannot continue like this. We need to change something in our marriage, or I do not know if we will survive. Jamal sat in silence. For the first time since they had arrived in Dubai, he really looked at his wife. He saw her tiredness. He saw her sadness. He saw her pain. And he realized that all the money he had spent had not made her happy at all. Jamal did not sleep that night. He sat on the chair in the living room of their hotel suite and thought about everything Zainab had said. He kept thinking about her words over and over again. He thought about how she had looked at him with sad eyes. He thought about how her voice had been shaking when she spoke to him. He realized that he had been wrong. Not just a little bit wrong, but completely and totally wrong. He had spent so much money to make his wife unhappy. He had made decisions that had hurt his family. He had forced his children to do activities when they were sick and tired. And he had done all of this because he wanted other people to think he was successful. Jamal thought about his job and his colleagues. He thought about how he was always trying to impress them. He thought about how he listened when they talked about their vacations and their expensive cars. He thought about how he felt like he needed to do something bigger and better to show them that he was just as successful as they were. He had let these feelings control his life, and in doing so he had hurt the people he loved most. He thought about his marriage with Zainab. He thought about how she had tried to tell him what she wanted, but he had not listened. He had been so busy planning his surprise that he had forgotten to ask her what she actually needed. He had assumed that she would want what he wanted, and when she did not, he had been confused and hurt. But really he had not given her the chance to tell him. As the sun came up over Dubai, Jamal made a decision. It was a difficult decision, but he knew it was the right one. He called the hotel front desk and asked for information about flights back to Nairobi. The man on the phone said that there were flights leaving that day. Jamal asked about the prices. The flights were expensive because they were being booked at the last minute, but Jamal did not care about the money anymore. What he cared about was his family. He booked flights for that afternoon. Then he called the yacht company and canceled the remaining cruise. He called the desert safari company and canceled the desert trip that was supposed to happen the next day. He called the beach resort and canceled their reservations. He was losing money with every call he made, but each time he hung up the phone he felt like he was getting his family back. When Zainab woke up, Jamal told her what he had done. At first she thought he was joking. She looked at him and said, "What do you mean we are leaving today? We have 3 more days here." "I know," Jamal said. "But I do not want to stay. I do not want to force you and the children to be here. I want to go home. I want to be in Nairobi where we belong." Zainab's eyes filled with tears. She did not say anything. She just hugged her husband tightly. She held him for a long time and neither of them spoke. Kofi and Amina were happy when they heard they were going home. Amina was still not feeling completely well, and the thought of home made her feel better. Kofi asked, "Really? We're going home? Today?" "Yes," Jamal said to his son. "We are going home today." The children started packing their things immediately. They were excited in a way they had not been since they arrived in Dubai. Home meant familiar food, familiar beds, and their friends and neighbors. Home meant comfort. At the airport, as they waited for their flight, Jamal asked Zainab to sit with him away from the children. They found a quiet corner of the airport where they could be alone. "I want to apologize," Jamal said. His voice was serious and honest. "I want to apologize for not listening to you. I want to apologize for making decisions without asking what you wanted. I want to apologize for spending our money without your permission. I want to apologize for hurting you." Zainab listened to her husband speak. She could see that he was truly sorry. His face showed sadness and regret. "But I need to explain something," Jamal continued. "I need to explain why I did these things. It is not an excuse, but it is an explanation. I have been measuring my success by what other people think. I have been comparing myself to my colleagues at work. I have been thinking that if I could just do one big thing, if I could just show everyone that I could afford something expensive, then I would feel successful. Then I would feel like a good man." He paused and looked at his wife. "But doing that meant that I stopped listening to you. It meant that I stopped asking what you wanted. It meant that I treated you like someone I could buy things for, instead of someone I could talk to and make decisions with. Zainab reached out and held her husband's hand. I realize now, Jamal said, that real success is not about what other people think. Real success is about having a wife who loves me and respects me. Real success is about having healthy children who are happy. Real success is about being a partner to you, not a person who makes decisions for you. He stood up and faced Zainab directly. From today things will be different. From today we will make decisions together. If we need to buy something big we will discuss it. If we need to plan a trip we will talk about where you want to go. If we need to spend money we will agree on it together. You will not be left out anymore. You will be my partner in everything. Zainab felt tears running down her face. These were not tears of sadness like before. These were tears of relief. These were tears of hope. This was the moment she had been waiting for. This was the moment when her husband finally heard her. I believe you, she said quietly. And I want you to know that I love you. I love you even when you make mistakes. But I need you to remember this moment. I need you to remember what it feels like right now, when you understand how much your choices affect me and our children. I need you to carry this feeling with you so that next time you want to make a big decision, you will remember to ask me first. I will remember, Jamal promised. I promise you I will never forget. They held each other for a long time in the airport. People walked past them carrying bags and rolling suitcases. Announcements came over the speakers telling people about their flights. But Jamal and Zainab just held each other and felt grateful that they had found their way back to each other. When they finally boarded the airplane, Jamal sat next to Zainab. He held her hand the entire flight. He did not take out his phone to show pictures to anyone. He did not talk about how expensive the trip was or how impressive Dubai was. He just sat with his wife and thought about how lucky he was to have someone who loved him enough to tell him the truth, even when it was difficult. Amina slept with her head on her mother's shoulder. Kofi read a book that he had bought in Dubai. The airplane moved through the sky, carrying the family back home to Nairobi. This time, Jamal was not thinking about how impressed people would be by his trip. This time he was thinking about how good it would feel to be home with his family. As they began their descent toward Nairobi, Jamal looked out the window at the land below. He could see the city getting bigger and bigger. He could see the streets and the buildings and the people. And he felt something in his chest that he had not felt in a long time. He felt peace. He felt like he was finally coming home, not just to a place but to the person he was supposed to be. Thank you, he whispered to Zainab. For what? She asked. For being brave enough to tell me the truth, he said. For loving me enough to make me understand. For not giving up on us. Zainab squeezed his hand. We are a team, she said. And teams need to work together. I am glad we remembered that. The airplane landed and they gathered their bags. As they walked through the airport back home, Jamal felt different. He felt lighter. He felt like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He had learned something very important on this trip to Dubai. He had learned that real wealth is not measured in money or luxury experiences. Real wealth is measured in love, in partnership, and in being truly heard by the person you love most. 2 weeks had passed since Zainab and her family returned to Nairobi from Dubai. Life had slowly returned to normal, but something felt different inside their home. It was a good kind of different. It was the kind of different that comes when two people have had an honest conversation and have decided to start fresh. Zainab had returned to her school and her students. When she walked back into the classroom, the children had run to her and hugged her. Teacher Zainab, you came back, they had shouted. She had felt guilty about missing them, but now she was grateful to be back where she belonged. Her students needed her and she needed them. Jamal had changed in small ways too. He no longer talked about the Dubai trip to his colleagues. When they asked him about it, he would answer briefly and then change the subject. He had stopped comparing himself to them. He had stopped feeling like he needed to prove something. Instead, he spent his evenings at home with his family, listening to stories about their day and helping with homework. Now, on a Saturday afternoon, exactly 2 weeks after returning home, Zainab's real birthday celebration was about to begin. Jamal had planned something very different from the Dubai trip. He had planned something simple, something real, something that came from his heart. That morning, Jamal had woken up early and gone to the market. He had bought tomatoes, onions, peppers, coconut milk, and rice. He had bought chicken and fish. He had bought all the ingredients for Zainab's favorite Kenyan dishes. Her favorite meal was matoke, which is cooked bananas, served with a rich stew made from beans and vegetables. She also loved chapati, the flat bread that is fried in oil until it is golden and crispy. When Zainab woke up, she found Jamal in the kitchen with an apron tied around his waist. He looked funny in the apron, and when Zainab saw him, she could not help but laugh. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I am cooking," Jamal said with a big smile. "Today is your birthday and I am going to make you a meal that you actually want. Not a meal in a fancy restaurant where we have to dress up and sit quietly. I am going to make you a meal in our own home, made with my own hands." Zainab felt her heart fill with happiness. This was so much better than Dubai. This was real. "Come," Jamal said to her. "Help me cook. The children will help too. This will be a family meal made by a family for a family member we love." Soon, Kofi and Amina were in the kitchen with their parents. Kofi was old enough to help chop vegetables, though Jamal had to watch carefully to make sure he did not cut his fingers. Amina was too small to chop, but she could stir the pot. She stood on a chair that Jamal had moved next to the stove, holding a big wooden spoon and stirring the stew. She was very serious about her job, and her tongue stuck out a little bit while she concentrated. As they cooked together, they talked and laughed. Jamal told jokes that made Kofi groan because they were so silly. Amina giggled as she stirred, occasionally trying to taste the stew. "Not yet," her mother told her gently. "It needs more time to cook." The kitchen smelled wonderful. The smell of cooking chicken mixed with the smell of beans and tomatoes and coconut milk. The smell of frying chapati mixed with the smell of onions. The kitchen smelled like home. It smelled like love. While they were cooking, Kofi helped his father decorate the living room. They did not use expensive decorations. Instead, they used things from around their home. Kofi drew pictures of flowers and hearts and stuck them on the walls with tape. Jamal hung up photographs of the family. There were pictures from Zainab and Jamal's wedding day. There were pictures of Kofi and Amina when they were babies. There were pictures of them at the beach, at the park, and at home. The walls became a story of their family's life together. By the afternoon, neighbors and close friends had started to arrive. Zainab's mother came, and her sister came with her children. Jamal's brother came. Some of the neighbors from the building came. They were not rich people and they did not bring expensive gifts. But they brought themselves and they brought joy. There was no fancy hotel. There was no five-star restaurant. There was just their small home filled with people they loved. The living room was crowded with people sitting on the floor and on chairs, talking and laughing. The children played together in one corner. The adults talked and shared stories. The food was laid out on a big table in the dining room. The matoke looked golden and delicious. The stew was steaming hot. The chapati was stacked high on a plate. There were also fresh fruits and a big jug of juice. Everything was simple, but everything was made with care and love. When they sat down to eat, Jamal stood up and asked everyone to be quiet for a moment. Zainab's mother asked if he was going to make a speech. "Yes," Jamal said. "I want to say something about my wife and about this celebration." Everyone listened quietly. "Zainab," Jamal began, looking at his wife, "2 weeks ago we went to Dubai. We stayed in a very fancy hotel. We did very expensive things. But I learned something important on that trip. I learned the difference between love and performance." He paused and took a breath. "I thought that love meant buying expensive things and taking my family to fancy places. I thought that being a good husband meant impressing my wife and making other people jealous of what I could provide. But I was wrong. Real love is not about performance. Real love is about listening. Real love is about asking what someone wants instead of deciding for them. Real love is about making decisions together as partners." Zainab felt tears come to her eyes as she listened to her husband. "Zainab told me something very important on our last night in Dubai," Jamal continued. "She told me that what makes her happy is being heard. What makes her happy is being treated as a partner. What makes her happy is simple time with her family, doing things together. I did not understand this before, but I understand it now." He turned to face his wife directly. "Zainab, I want to thank you for being brave enough to tell me the truth. I want to thank you for not just accepting what I had decided, but for telling me what you really felt. I want to thank you for teaching me what real love is." There was silence in the room for a moment, and then everyone started to clap. Zainab's mother was crying happy tears. The neighbors were smiling. Then Kofi stood up. "I want to say something too," he said in his small boy voice. Everyone turned to look at him. "Dubai was nice," Kofi said, "but I like home better. I like my friends here. I like my school. And I like it when Mama and Papa are happy together. In Dubai they were not happy. But now they are happy. So I think this birthday is better than Dubai." Amina clapped her hands and shouted, "Yes. Mama's birthday is the best." After they ate the food, they sat together and talked. Jamal's brother told stories that made everyone laugh. Zainab's sister and mother talked about old memories. The children played a game with the neighbors. As the evening came and the sun started to set, the house was filled with warmth and real happiness. When it was time for people to leave, Zainab walked them to the door and thanked them for coming. One by one, people left, carrying with them the memory of a simple but beautiful celebration. Before bed that night, Kofi came to his parents' room. He was supposed to be asleep, but he whispered to his mother, "Mama, can I tell you something?" "Of course, my son," Zainab said, pulling him close. "This was the best birthday ever," Kofi whispered. "Because our family is whole again. In Dubai it felt like something was broken, but now it is fixed." Zainab felt tears on her face as she held her son. She looked at Jamal, who was standing in the doorway, and he came and wrapped his arms around both of them. "It is fixed," Zainab agreed. "Our family is whole again." Later that night, after the children were asleep, Jamal and Zainab sat together on their small balcony. They could see the lights of Nairobi spreading out below them. They could hear the sounds of the city at night. They were not in a fancy five-star hotel looking down at an expensive city. They were in their own home, their own small, simple home that they had created together. "Do you know what I realized?" Zainab said softly. "The trip to Dubai did not break us. It actually helped us. It showed us what was wrong and it gave us a chance to fix it." "I know," Jamal said, holding his wife's hand. "And I promise you I will never forget this lesson. I will never forget what real love means." They sat together in the quiet night, two people who had learned something very important. They had learned that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought. They cannot be found in fancy hotels or tall buildings or shopping malls. They can only be found in the hearts of people who love each other and who are brave enough to be honest with each other. The journey to Dubai had taken them far from home, but it had brought them closer to each other. And that, they both knew, was worth more than anything money could buy.